Hey everybody, this is Loli Jane, Animal Communicator and Energy Healer from animals-speak.com, and you're listening to Loli Jane Animal Communication Podcast, the show that promises to open your mind and heart to the amazing world of animal communication, energy healing, and what I like to call interspecies therapy. Thanks for joining me. In today's episode, I'll be sharing an amazing conversation I had with Blackie, a Malayan Sun Bear. This conversation I had with Blackie was so in-depth, I'm going to split this into 2 episodes. This is part 1. You'll love this up-close and personal conversation where Blackie shared his bold personality and charisma with me and many thoughts about his feelings with humans and his role in the world. Today's episode is very heartfelt, and it's a journey which will make you laugh and cry and also make you angry. But I promise you will never be the same after hearing Blackie's story. Blackie has such a profound purpose with us humans, and even as I'm writing this podcast, I'm feeling his essence. First, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a certified international professional animal communicator and pranic energy healer, but I'm also a channeler, medium, empath, and teacher. I offer remote and in-person animal communication, whether they are alive or in spirit. I also offer pranic energy healing for trauma, injuries, pain, illness, disease, and behavioral and emotional issues for both humans and animals. For the humans, I can also provide spiritual guidance by channeling your angels and guides, or whether you are moving locally even to a nearby neighborhood or relocating across the country or even overseas. I teach it's important to understand that moving and relocation greatly affect your animals. Mentoring. So how are animals affected? Workshop schedules at animals-speak.com or at mindbodyspiritworkshops.com. Today's episode is a conversation with a male Malayan Sun Bear named Blackie. Malayan Sun Bears are ancient. They originated about 800,000 years ago from the Indochine Peninsula and are descended from black bears. They're also the smallest species of bear, and the reason they're named sun bears is because they have this markings on their chest of what looks like the rising sun. Blackie is a resident of the Honolulu Zoo. Many animals at the zoos are rescued as a result of deforestation or poaching, which leaves very young animals without care or a home. Before you get upset and your blood starts to boil, hear me out. Many times people hear the word zoo and they get very upset. But what I want to share, something I learned directly from animals. Every single animal that I've talked to in captivity, or what they call now under human care, have told me the same thing. They said that they chose this incarnation to be teachers for humanity, and it's no accident that they ended up on display to be front and center with the humans. Blackie is no exception. When I first started talking to zoo animals, and the animals shared their mission to help humanity awaken, I was affected. But as I kept on talking to different zoo animals and sanctuary animals, they all told me the same thing. And I realized how profoundly important the mission and purpose of a rescued animal is. So please listen to my story with an open mind and heart. That is what they want for us humans. Blackie came to the Honolulu Zoo from Cleveland and has been living here for 13 years. In this case, they didn't know his origins, and at the time I talked to him, he was about 24 and a half years old. Sun bears typically pass at age 30, although some can live up to age 35. So I talked to Blackie over 4 years ago. So today he is approaching around age 29. I was contacted by the head zookeeper at Honolulu Zoo to help with a behavioral issue that they were having with Blackie. His keepers reported that he gets upset really easily and it's really hard to calm down. They said he quickly paces back and forth, he's frothing at the mouth, but too far from them to see, even though he's making these crazy loud vocalizations when he really gets upset. So the keepers needed help, and they wanted to know what was upsetting him and what they could do about it. How could they help? The keeper told me that she couldn't break the behavior because she couldn't reach him because he was too far away when he did these behaviors. And the keepers thought that the behavior was because his mate, Joita, another Malayan Sun Bear, had passed away a few months earlier. So they wanted to know if he missed Joita and if he wanted another friend. The keeper also shared with me that they didn't think that Blackie learned to climb trees, so they had to manually clip his claws, and Blackie was probably taken, they thought, at an early age because he may not have imprinted climbing trees. Imprints happen from adult bears in the first 2 years of life. So they requested that I ask him to climb the trees so that the keeper doesn't have to clip his claws. And of course I shared with the keeper that he may not know how to climb trees if he didn't imprint properly or was born in human care. The keeper said she was doing a lot of training with Blackie at first, but not now because of staff shortages. The keeper also wanted to know if he was rescued or taken from the wild or born in captivity. She also wanted to know what she could do to help him and all the other rescued sun bears. I talked to Blackie for a long time about many issues and what he wanted to share, and got a really good sense of his personality. And I am also clairaudient, so I can actually hear a tone of voice as if I'm talking to a human and sort of get a sense of their personality as well. So Blackie is highly intelligent, almost, I swear to God, like talking to a PhD. And the keeper later shared with me that sun bears are very intelligent and shouldn't be in captivity at all. Once we got past the difficult questions, he was very witty and funny. It took a while for him to lighten up his mood, some really heavy, serious conversation, but he was a great comedian, and he made a couple of jokes during our conversation, and his personality became very jovial, which literally reminded me of like a jolly uncle or something. Blackie is also a take-charge leader and a teacher and wants to take a lead role. The keeper later shared with me that his mate Joita was more submissive with his mate during the years that he was with his mate. And when they were in training together, he would take charge after Joita was gone. He became much more dominant. So she also shared with me that sun bears are very good at manipulating humans. Blackie is also a big flirt. He was flirting with me during the conversation, which I found to be really bizarre since no animal has ever flirted with me in this way. The keepers later told me, yes, he would flirt with other humans and even got excited when they were doing training with him. I talked to Blackie about writing a book about the animals at the zoo, and believe it or not, he wanted to be the one to coordinate all the animals so that we can write a book showing their personalities and opinions. He did share with me that he's very sad about losing his mate, Joita, and he feels stifled because he doesn't really have an outlet to communicate with anyone. So he gets highly agitated and shows some of these behaviors like pacing, frothing at the mouth, loud vocalizations, when he actually needs to scream out loud just to release his built-up tension. Blackie also shared his likes and dislikes with me. He shared with me what his favorite things were and also the things he disliked or made him uncomfortable. When I asked him his favorite foods, he said fresh is best. He said we don't like dried foods like the chow unless they are soaked in water, but even soaked in water, he said it doesn't digest well. So he likes fruits, vegetables, fresh meats, fresh fish, clean water, and lots of sweets. He kept mentioning sweets. The keeper later told me he loves water and does get some live fish. He said he loves snacks and sweets, and he likes the snacks with honey mixed with peanut butter. So the keeper later told me that the honey peanut butter snack is his big reward at the end of each training session. So he said he loves sharing his fruit and nuts and berries with his former mate, Joita. He shared his favorite activities like catching fish with his claws. And he said that he loved fishing and would like a pond where he can fish from to get his own fish instead of having fish brought to him. I asked him if he learned how to catch fish in the wild with his claws, and he told me that he remembers learning some of these life skills to gather food and hunt and climb trees, but was removed from the land as a youngster and raised in an enclosure on a private land. The keeper later clarified that they believed that he was rescued from deforestation and then put in captivity at his original zoo. Other activities he enjoys are playing with the old tire. The keeper later told me that he used to have an old tire here in the zoo and a tire to lay on, and also an old tire with a fire hose. He loved jumping on something bouncy that looked like a trampoline from his previous zoo. He said there is not a lot of activities at this zoo, but showed me that he liked to play catch with the keeper and loves playing with the water hose and wetting himself and everything else around him. And the keeper later told me that, yes, he loves fire hoses and water and like shooting water at everything. And he also said it gets hot in here. A lot of the animals share that they're hot and they want water because they're in Hawaii. So I guess they're not used to that environment. He also shared with me that he wanted to climb trees and hide up in the branches, but his paw was hurting and he didn't feel strong enough to climb. He said he liked doing loud sounds sometimes because it feels good. I told him it sounds like you've not been doing a whole lot of activities lately. He said this is true. I haven't felt like doing anything. And I asked him why, and he told me because of Joita. He is still mourning the loss of his mate. He also said he didn't like having his claws trimmed, but he could not climb trees, as I mentioned, since his right front paw was weak. When I discussed this with the keeper, she was very emotional because she felt like she was missing the signs that Blackie was giving her. She said during the claw trimming training through the fence, when they got to the right paw, he couldn't give me his paw, only the wrist. And the good news is now they know the root cause. He cannot climb and can now address healing the paw. Blackie also shared with me that he did not like discussing health issues, like most animals. And he didn't like not having an outlet or way to release his pent-up emotions, since there is no one to communicate with, especially since Joita passed. He's still mourning, and he shared with me their special relationship. This is really beautiful. He said they understood each other and doesn't feel connected to anyone since she was gone. He said he doesn't like being ignored, like he is not there by some keepers, like being invisible. Unfortunately, some zookeepers just have time now for feeding and cleaning the enclosures, especially at the time that I talked to him, which was still during COVID. So they were really short-staffed. And that's really not enough for animals. So they need activities, they need enrichments, and they need connections with other animals and humans. He shared he doesn't like being locked up and unable to be recognized for who he really is and understood by anyone. And honestly, I feel so fortunate to be able to connect with him and such an animal who feels lonely and disconnected. It's an amazing thing to be able to talk to an animal and have them share this with you. I asked him what else upsets him or makes him uncomfortable, and he said some of the other keepers ignore me like I'm a blow-up doll. They don't think I have anything to offer and just pass by me like I'm not there. And I told him, yes, I understand. Some of the keepers really don't have an interest or fascination with animals. It's just a job to them. And they really don't understand. They don't understand the depth of intelligence of animals also. So he said, I'm not sure why they are doing this type of work without a sense of passion. I asked him if he had any suggestions for them, and he said, follow your heart, and that's the realm that you should be working in. Don't go where your heart does not lead you. I said, Blackie, I really love this. I'm going to remember this always. So I asked him, what do you need from your keeper? And he reiterated the same thing: fresh water, clean water. The keeper says they have a pool outside, but it's not running water. He likes running water. I asked if it's water to bathe in or drink. He said both. The water is dirty. Blackie started talking about the food again. He said fresh fruit, vegetables, meat, and we do not like the chow, which he literally said is ground up monkey butts. It's not really monkey butts, but he literally called it monkey butts. I said, did you just say monkey butts? He said, yes. I'm not sure what the chow is made from. I said, Blackie, you're quite the comedian. I asked him what else he needed to be more comfortable, and he said, well, if they get me a mate, that would be great, but I'll have to love her, as I did Juita. Oh my God, does that break your heart? I told him, I understand, not everyone is compatible. He says, well, if it's not, maybe a new friend. That would be nice too. So he was in love with Juita. And yes, animals do experience all the emotions of humans. I asked him what other requests that he has. He sent me an image of the keeper drinking coffee outside of his enclosure, and of course, he wanted to join her. The keeper later told me that she had a morning routine with him and had coffee with him every day, but the bosses do not allow this anymore. And I told him, I said, sounds great, but she'll have to tell the management about this, otherwise they'll think she's slacking off. He said, please stop feeding me monkey butts and bring fresh food in. You know bears like to eat, well, anything, but not monkey butts. Blackie can be a stand-up comedian for real. I said, Blackie, I can't show this communication to the monkeys or they will be frightened and appalled. He said, well, they should be. So this next part is an actual conversation with Blackie. When I introduced myself to Blackie and asked if he wanted to chat with me, he said, yes, I've been waiting for you. The others have told me about you. I asked if the other animals or the other keepers. He said both, but mainly the animals. This amazes me because Mari the elephant that I talked to told me the same thing. What for you and humanity. And he replied, that is so great, I will be happy to work with you. As we got into the conversation, my right hand started to swell and hurt out of the blue, and then it went away. And I have this happen a lot when I'm talking to animals. I asked if that was him showing me his pain, and he would not answer me. And I told him, I know animals don't readily share their pain, but I want to help alleviate his suffering. So he shared with me that his pain sensation was in his right paw. And that's exactly where I felt it, my right hand. It comes in, I feel it intensely, and then it goes away like it's not even there. And that's how I know it's not mine. So he said it felt very, very weak, like he doesn't have the strength in the paw. He said it also felt stiff and swollen. And the keeper later shared that Blackie couldn't put his foot down. He said he injured it, but he wasn't sure how. That's what he told me at first. And then all of a sudden he clammed up. And he sent me this feeling of anxiety and this feeling of being blocked. And I asked him to share with me how he's feeling so I could help him. Then he showed me an image of a man beating him a long time ago when he was younger. Then he told me he hit me with a shovel. He said it happened before I got to the zoo. So now we know the real reason he sustained a paw injury. He also told me he was sad because there was no trees to climb where he lived before. I asked him about his origins, his original origins, and if he remembered where he came from before he was brought here. He said he was brought on a truck and used to live in a cement enclosure. Then I asked if he remembered where he lived when he was a cub. He sent an image of an open range. Typically, sun bears live in rainforest or forest, or swamps, but he was showing me an open range. I asked about his bear family, and he showed me other cubs around and bears, and he told me that he knows how to climb trees. So his family must have taught him, but he couldn't remember much. The keepers later told me that they thought that he was rescued from deforestation, which his image of an open range makes sense. That makes sense. It's not a forest because it was deforested. Next, I asked him about the claw trims since he couldn't climb trees, and Blackie said, "She's going to have to continue to trim my claws, and believe me, I don't enjoy this activity." I asked him if he had any suggestions for rehabilitating his right front paw, and he said, "I'm glad you asked." He said, "I guess I can do certain exercises." I said, "Well, maybe the vet tech can help you with this." And I asked him if they need to do an x-ray or ultrasound for your paw to feel better. Can you please cooperate with them? It'll help a lot. And he said, "Only because you asked, and I am sweet on you." I said, "Aw, you are very sweet, but I am a human, so maybe I'm not the ideal mate for you." He said, I literally cannot believe he said this, but he said, "I can dream, can I?" I said, "Of course, but like I said, the invitation to talk still stands." And literally, the keeper later told me that he is a huge flirt with some of the other humans. I said, "Blackie, I really feel like I'm connecting with you on the heart level." He said, "Well, we have big hearts. You are feeling my heart." I said, "You know, your keeper is going to be jealous of us. I think she feels a bond with you." He said, "Well, I'll try harder to bond with her." That brings us to the end of this great episode. Stay tuned for part 2, where we talk about the love that he had for Javita, his sole purpose in this incarnation, and then messages that he has for humanity. I hope you enjoyed this amazing episode talking to Blackie, the Malayan Sun Bear, as much as I love doing it. Be sure to subscribe for more amazing episodes and catch part 2. Book your animal communication session now or check out my upcoming workshops and classes on animal communication and mind, body, and spirit. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain, as well as opening your mind, heart, and spirit to your deep connection with your beloved animals. For more information, please visit my website at animalspeak.com, animals-speak.com, Loli Jane animalcommunication.com, or mindbodyspiritworkshops.com. And please subscribe to my monthly newsletter for specials, classes, workshops, and events, and my latest podcast. You can listen to my podcast called Loli Jane Animal Communication and Healing on any place that you listen to podcasts: Apple, iHeart, Spotify, Amazon, Audible, YouTube, Buzzsprout, etc., etc. Join us next week for episode 37, a conversation with a Malayan Sun Bear. Very interesting. Don't miss that one. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe, like, and rate us. And as always, love and gratitude for listening to the Loli Jane Animal Communication and Healing Podcast. This is Loli Jane. This podcast was created, produced, and recorded, researched, and edited by Loli Jane and is a product of Loli Jane Animal Communication and Healing. And please subscribe to my monthly newsletter for specials, classes, workshops, events, and the latest podcast. You can listen to my podcast called Loli Jane, Animal Communication and Healing on Apple, iHeart, Spotify, Amazon, Audible, YouTube, Buzzsprout, etc. Join us next week for episode 35 on what to do with your pets before going on a trip. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe, like, and rate us. And as always, love and gratitude for listening to the Loli Jane Animal Communication and Healing Podcast. This is Loli Jane.